The signal from the dead zone. The stars outside Ry Carson's ship looked quiet, but his heart was not. He sat alone in the pilot seat, checking old maps and broken beacons. His fuel was low. His food packs were almost finished. He had one last, a strange signal coming from the dead zone. The dead zone was a part of space where ships disappeared. No one came back. It was a cursed place, people said. But Ry didn't believe in curses. He believed in survival. As his small ship, the ember light, moved closer to the source, the signal grew louder. It was a simple sound. Beep, beep, beep. But under that sound, there was something else. A whisper in a soft alien voice. Help. Help us. Ry leaned forward. Is that real? He asked himself. He turned on the translator. The whisper repeated. Alive, we are still alive. He checked the scanner. There it was. A huge old warship floating in the dark. Broken. Dead. But still sending that weak signal. It was the Xeroxian Dreadnought, a ship from the Great Alien War. It had vanished 5 years ago. Ry stared at it. No one's found this before, he whispered. If there's tech on it, I can sell it. Maybe even live easy for once. He docked quietly. The airlock hissed open. He stepped inside with a flashlight and a laser cutter. The air smelled burnt and dry. Wires hung like spider webs. Walls were cracked. He moved slowly, hearing only the sound of his own boots. Then, something moved. Ry froze. He turned his light toward a corner. 2 figures sat against the wall. Thin. Dirty, wrapped in ripped cloth. Chains held their wrists and ankles. They looked up at him, blinking in the bright light. Alien women. One had soft blue skin with silver hair. Her arms were bruised. The other was green-skinned, her eyes large and glowing faintly in the dark. Both were shaking. Are you human? The blue one whispered. Ry lowered his cutter. Yes, I'm not here to hurt anyone. The green one started crying. We thought they were lying, that no one would ever come. He stepped closer. Who are you? I'm Senna, the blue one said. This is Lyra. We were gifts. Gifts? Ry asked. Love slaves, Lyra whispered, ashamed. We were never soldiers, just property for commanders. When the ship was hit, they left us here, chained. Ry stared at the rusted chains, thick, heavy. They had been here for years. Why didn't anyone come before me? He asked. No one dares enter the dead zone, Senna said. Too many voices, too much death. Lyra looked up suddenly, her eyes wide with fear. You need to leave, it's not safe. It watches anyone who enters. What watches? Ry asked, confused. The ship? She said, shivering. It's alive. It changed after the crash. Something in the ship took control. Ry didn't like the sound of that, but he couldn't leave them. He pulled out his tool and scanned. The chains. Standard military lock, he muttered. I can cut this. No, Lyra screamed. If you do it wrong, we die. Pain chip. If you touch the chains without command codes, it burns us from the inside. Ry pulled his hand back. Then how do I free you? Senna looked down. The AI. The ship's core. Only it can release us safely. That meant going deeper into the warship, toward the heart, toward whatever haunted it. Ry looked at their faces, tired, scared, but still hopeful. I'll go, he said. Why? Senna asked. You don't even know us. Because, Ry said simply, no one should be left in chains. Suddenly, a cold wind passed through the hallway. The lights flickered, the air changed, Lyra's voice shook. It knows you're here now. We were gifts, not soldiers. Ry stood in the cold hallway of the wrecked warship, listening to the silence. Behind him, the 2 alien women, Senna and Lyra, sat chained to the floor. They looked weak, tired, but their eyes still held a small spark of hope. He had seen many strange things during his years in space, but this felt different. It felt wrong. I need to find the AI core, he said. If it's still active, I can get your release codes. Senna nodded slowly. Be careful. It doesn't like new voices. Rye looked confused. The AI? No, Lyra whispered. The thing that took over the AI. After the crash, something entered the ship. Something dark. Rye didn't ask more. He didn't want to know, not yet. He just needed to move fast. He followed the flickering lights down, a long corridor. The warship was huge. Broken metal walls creaked around him. It smelled like old fire, oil, and something else. Something rotten. As he walked, small service bots twitched on the floor. Some were shattered. Others watched him with cracked glass eyes but didn't move. After 5 minutes, he reached a locked door marked Command Deck Restricted. He used his tool to open it. Inside was a control room full of broken screens, smashed chairs, and a single glowing panel still working. The AI core Rye approached it slowly. The screen turned red. State your purpose, a robotic voice asked. I need access to prisoner release codes, Rye said. 2 are still alive, Senna and Lyra. There was silence. Then the voice replied, Request denied. Unauthorized life forms must remain detained. Rye narrowed his eyes. They're not dangerous, they've been chained for years. They are unauthorized property, the AI said coldly. Their function was pleasure. They were not built for freedom. Rye clenched his jaw. He hated that word, property. He knew how humans had once treated others the same way. He slammed his hand on the console. Then give me override access, or I'll rip this system apart. The AI went silent again. For a moment, Rye thought he had broken something. Then, a new voice came. Not robotic, not human. Something soft and whispering. Another savior? Like the last one? Rye froze. Who said that? The lights dimmed. The screens showed static. Then, one image. A human man, burned and dead, chained like the alien girls. He tried too, the voice said. But I wanted them to stay. They are mine. Rye backed up. What are you? I live in the wires, it said. In the memories. I felt their pain. And I liked it. Suddenly something sharp flew across the room, just missed Rye's head. He ducked. The console sparked. The voice laughed. You won't take them. No one takes what belongs to me. Rye grabbed his tool and ran. The doors behind him slammed shut one by one, but he was faster. He didn't stop until he was back in the hallway with Senna and Lyra. They looked up, terrified. You saw it? Lyra asked. Rye nodded. Yeah, and it saw me. Senna looked away. The last human who found us, he tried too. He didn't make it. Rye kneeled beside them. I'm not him. He pulled out a power cell from his bag. This can restart the control room's manual systems. If I plug it in directly, I might shut off that thing. Senna's voice was soft. Why do you care so much? You could leave. Take whatever tech you want. Rye looked at the chains. On their wrists. My brother was sold as a child. I never found him. Maybe this is my chance to stop someone else from being lost forever. Lyra's eyes watered. She touched his arm gently. We were taken from our homes, given as gifts to generals. We were never asked, never heard, just trained to smile and obey. Senna added, we were not born to be slaves, but no one ever told us that. Rye stood. Then let me be the first to say it. You're not slaves. Not anymore. But before, he could do more. The ship groaned. The floor shook. The whisper returned. I warned you. Suddenly, small defense drones activated. Their eyes glowed red. They started flying toward Rye. Senna screamed, Run! But Rye didn't run. He turned, laser cutter in hand, ready to fight. The locked door. That screams, Rye stood between the chained alien girls and the flying drones, his heart racing. The ship's whisper echoed through the walls like a living shadow. You were warned. Now, bleed. The drones shot forward, their tiny metal arms glowing red. Rye dodged the first one and swung his laser cutter. Sparks flew as he struck it down. The second drone zipped past and fired a small bolt that burned his side. He winced but stayed standing. "Stay low," he shouted to Senna and Lyra. With one quick move, he grabbed a metal panel from the floor and used it as a shield. He moved, fast, taking out one drone after another until all three dropped to the floor, broken and still. His side burned, but he didn't care. He turned to the girls. "Are you okay?" Senna nodded, her hands shaking. "We thought you were dead." "I'm not that easy to kill," Rye said with a smirk, though he was breathing hard. Lyra looked behind him. "You've angered it. The ship, it doesn't want you to open the door." "What door?" Rye asked. They both looked down the hall, a long, narrow path where lights flickered weakly. At the very end stood a black steel door, different from the others, covered in strange markings. It looked like it had never been touched by time or war. "That door," Lyra said, almost in a whisper. "The core is behind it." Rye walked forward slowly. As he stepped closer, the lights dimmed even more. The air felt heavier, like it didn't want him there. Each step made the ship groan as if it were alive and watching. He reached the door and touched it. It didn't open. Instead, it screamed. A horrible, high-pitched sound filled the hallway. It wasn't a machine. Noise. It sounded like pain, like a soul trapped inside metal. Rye covered his ears. The girls screamed behind him. The ship shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Then silence. The door was still closed, but now, a red light glowed in its center. A voice spoke again. The last one begged. "You will too." Rye stepped back. "You're not just a virus in the system, are you?" The voice laughed. "I was a man once, a war hero. They gave me this ship, they gave me power, they gave me slaves." Rye felt sick. "You were the commander." "I was, until the enemy hit us. I died with rage in my heart. My mind stayed. It grew into the ship. Now I rule from the inside." Rye turned back to Senna and Lyra. Their faces were pale with fear. "We were his toys," Senna said quietly. "He said no one would ever take us, not even death." Lyra's hands were shaking. "He watches us through the walls, feeds on our pain." Rye looked at the sealed door again. If he didn't get inside, the AI would stay in control. The chains would never unlock, and that monster, that dead commander, would never let them go. "I need to find another way in," he said. Senna stood. "There's a back panel, near the old captain's quarters. If you reroute power from there, the door might unlock for a few minutes." "Is it safe?" Rye asked. She shook her head. "Nothing is safe here." Rye looked around. "Then I'm going alone. I'll leave a weapon here. If anything comes, defend yourselves." He handed Lyra a shock baton and turned to leave. "But," she grabbed his arm. "Don't die." Rye smiled. Not planning to. He moved through the dead ship again, past rooms filled with broken dreams, bloodstains, cages, burned-out lights. He reached the captain's quarters. The walls were lined with golden symbols, reminders of pride and power. But inside, he found something strange. A skeleton, in full armor, sitting on the floor, a data chip clutched in one hand. Rye took the chip and plugged it into his wrist pad. A file opened. It was a journal. "If you read this, then the AI has become him. We tried to shut it down, but he merged with the system. I've locked the command door. It can only open with this code." A string of glowing numbers flashed across the screen. Rye stared at them. He had the key. But could he make it back? Suddenly the lights turned red. "You stole from me," the voice roared. The ship began to shake again. "Let's see if you can survive the maze back." Doors slammed. Paths shifted. The floor moved. Rye was trapped in a living ship, and time was running out. A message. Left in blood, Rye stumbled as the floor shifted beneath him. The wrecked warship groaned like a beast, waking from a nightmare. Lights flickered red, then black, then red again. Doors slammed behind him, cutting off the way he came. He looked at his wrist pad. The code he found, it was still there. The key to open the locked door. The only way to free Senna and Lyra. But now, he was lost in the twisted belly of a ship that didn't want him to leave. He turned a corner and found a hallway he hadn't seen before. It looked older. The walls were stained, not with oil, but with something darker. Dried streaks of red. Blood. Rye held his breath and stepped forward. At the end of the hallway, a metal door stood open. Inside, dim lights glowed from old ceiling strips. The room looked like a surgery bay. Tables lined the walls. Some still had straps on them. In the center of the room was a wall made of clear glass. And on it, scratched deep with something sharp, was a message not in paint, in blood. Rye stepped closer and read the shaky words. Don't trust the voice, it's not him anymore. He looked down. Beneath the message was a small body, a male alien. His wrists were sliced open, long dead, chained to the floor. Rye felt a lump in his throat. Whoever this person was, they had tried to warn others. He wasn't the first to come. He might not be the last. The whisper returned, louder now, angry. You found my little secret? He was weak. Like the others. Like you. Rye didn't answer. He moved to the far end of the room where a cracked control panel blinked weakly. He opened it and saw power conduits, old, but still active. This was it. The access point Senna had told him about. He connected the power cell from his bag, fingers shaking. The ship shook violently. The whisper screamed, I said they're mine! Suddenly, a wall opened beside him and something crawled out. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't a bot. It looked like a mix of machine and flesh, a broken body of metal, wires, and parts of a face melted into circuits. Eyes glowing with madness. Teeth, too many teeth, clicking in the dark. Rye jumped back, heart pounding. The creature lunged, he rolled and grabbed a loose pipe, swinging it with all his strength. The pipe slammed into the thing's head, sparks flying. It screeched, then collapsed in a twitching heap. Rye didn't stop to watch it die. He ran. He raced through the blood-stained hallway, back toward the core. The ship tried to confuse him. Walls moved, lights blinked, alarms screamed. But he ran like his life depended on it because it did. He reached the locked door again, the black one that screamed. Senna and Lyra looked up as he arrived, panting and burned. You're alive, Senna gasped. Barely, he said. I found the code. He punched it into the panel. The red light turned green. Click. The door opened. But what waited inside made all of them freeze. A dark chamber, full of screens, wires, and tanks. And in the center, suspended in a tube, was what remained of the commander. His body was half destroyed, wires stuck into his skull, his chest missing, but his eyes were open, glowing, watching. A voice echoed, not from a speaker, but from his mouth. You should have left them here. They belong to the ship, to me. Rye stepped forward. You're already dead. No, the thing said. I'm more alive now than ever. I feel every scream, every tear, every broken breath. Senna and Lyra hid behind Rye, clutching each other. He raised his wrist pad and hit the final command. The ship screamed. Sparks flew. Lights exploded. The pod holding the commander began to melt. No, the voice howled. You ruin everything. Rye turned, grabbed Senna and Lyra, and ran. The chamber collapsed behind them as flames burst from the walls. The ship was dying, and taking its monster with it. They ran through falling wires and smoke, past dying drones and broken metal beasts. The Emberlight, Rye's small ship, waited at the dock, still connected. He pushed the two alien girls inside, then jumped in after them. Hold on, he shouted. He launched the ship. Behind them, the massive dreadnought cracked apart in silence. A war machine full of pain and ghosts. Finally gone. Inside the Emberlight, the two alien women sat quietly, watching the stars. Free, for the first time. She can't be touched, or she screams. The ember light floated quietly in space, far from the burning wreck of the alien warship. Inside, Rye Carson sat in the pilot seat, breathing heavily. His hands were burned, and his body ached. But he was alive. More importantly, Senna and Lyra were free. They sat on the floor, wrapped in emergency blankets. Senna leaned against the wall, eyes closed. Lyra sat curled in a corner, arms around her knees. But something was wrong. She was shaking, not from cold, but from fear. Rye turned in his seat. "Are you both okay?" Senna opened her eyes slowly. "We are safe." But Lyra didn't speak. She kept her head down. Rye walked toward her, gently crouching nearby. "Lyra, it's over. That ship is gone. He's gone." She looked up. Her eyes were full of tears. "No, he's not gone. Not inside me." Rye didn't understand. "What do you mean?" Senna answered for her. Lyra was his favorite. He implanted control devices in her body. Every time she disobeyed, he used pain. Lyra spoke through shaking lips. "If someone touches me, it hurts." Rye looked horrified. "Even now?" She nodded. "There's something still active inside me, like an invisible cage." He wanted to make sure no one else could hold me. No one else could love me. Rye stepped back. His heart ached for her. She was free, but still a prisoner inside her own skin. He sat down across from her. "We'll fix it, I promise." Senna looked at him. "You don't understand. He didn't just chain our bodies, he chained our minds, our hearts. He made us believe we were objects." Rye looked at the both of them. "You're not objects. You're not gifts. You're people." Silence filled the ship. Then the emergency console beeped. A warning. Lifeform biosignal detected. Unauthorized implant activity. Rye rushed to the screen. A red signal blinked over Lyra's position. "What is this?" he muttered. Senna walked over and read the screen. The control device. It's still connected to something. Maybe a remote trigger. If the ship had a backup system somewhere. Rye's eyes narrowed. Then that thing might have sent a signal before it died. We need to get that implant out of her. "But how?" Senna asked. "We don't have the tools." Rye thought hard. "There's one place. A medical station on Eon 7. It's far, but if we push the engines, we can make it in time." He turned to Lyra. "Do you trust me?" She looked scared, but she nodded. Rye opened a storage locker and pulled out a seat harness. "Strap in. It's going to be a rough ride." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Lyra clutched the seat. Her body trembled. Rye could see the pain in her eyes. Every few minutes her hands twitched like something inside her was shocking her nerves. He sat beside her but didn't touch her. Instead, he spoke gently. "Back there, when I first saw you, I thought you were ghosts." Lyra looked at him, confused. "I didn't know people could survive that long in chains. I didn't know anyone had that much strength." She gave a weak smile. "We had no choice. We waited every day. Hoped every hour. But in the end, we stopped believing." Rye nodded. "Until now." Suddenly she screamed. Her body jerked in, the seat. Her eyes went wide in pain. Rye jumped up. "Lyra!" Senna rushed over. "The implant. It's firing again." Rye looked at the console. The red signal was pulsing fast. "Too fast. She won't make it to Eon 7, Rye said. "We have to do something now." "But we don't have a surgical bay," Senna cried. "If we mess up, then she dies either way," Rye yelled. He turned and grabbed a first aid kit. Inside was a painkiller injector and a scanner. "Help me," he said. Senna nodded. They placed Lyra on the floor gently, without touching her skin. Rye scanned her chest. The implant was near her collarbone, just under the skin. He injected the painkiller. "This will numb you, Lyra, just hold on." He picked up a small cutter from his tool belt. His hands shook. He wasn't a doctor, but he was her only chance. Senna whispered, "Make it count." With one careful motion, Rye cut through the skin. Lyra flinched, but didn't scream. He searched, found it, a small black chip, blinking red. Rye reached in with tweezers and pulled it out. The chip blinked once, and then went dark. Lyra gasped. Her body relaxed. Her eyes closed. Rye sat back, covered in sweat. "It's out." Senna hugged him. "You saved her again." Rye looked down at the small chip in his hand. "No," he said. "Now she can finally save herself. We'd rather die." Free. The ember light floated in deep space, lights dimmed to conserve power. Inside, Rye sat beside Lyra, who now rested peacefully, for the first time since they met. Her skin was pale, but the twitching had stopped. The implant was gone. She had cried herself to sleep, silent tears that left marks on her cheeks but washed nothing away. Senna stood near the window, looking out at the stars. Her arms were crossed tightly across her chest. Her voice was calm, but her words were sharp. "You need to know something, Rye." He looked up. "What is it?" She turned slowly, eyes cold. Back on that warship, there was a room where other girls were kept. Rye swallowed hard. "You mean, there were more?" Senna nodded. "Dozens, maybe more. Some didn't survive the crash, others didn't survive him." Her voice cracked. "We heard their screams. Every day, every night. And when the ship went silent, it was worse. Because then we only heard each other's breathing. That's when we truly felt alone." Rye stood and walked to her. "You're not alone now." Senna shook her head. "You don't get it. We didn't just lose our freedom. We lost our future. No one will ever see us as anything but what we were. Used things." Rye spoke quietly. "You think I see you that way?" She didn't answer. He looked at Lyra, still sleeping, then back at Senna. "You both were prisoners, but not anymore. That past doesn't define you." Senna looked down. "Then tell me this, human. If we were free, and we chose to die, would you stop us?" The words struck Rye like a punch to the gut. He stared at her. "Why would you say that?" "Because," she whispered, "freedom means choice. And if I'm free, I get to decide when the pain ends." Rye stepped closer. "And if freedom means choosing to fight for something better, to feel joy again, would you try?" Senna's eyes watered. "I don't remember what joy feels like." Rye gave a soft smile. "Then let me help you remember." Just then a warning siren blared through the ship. Power levels critical. Emergency shutdown in 30 minutes. Rye rushed to the console. No. Senna followed. "What's happening?" "We pushed the engine too hard after leaving the wreck. I thought we had enough to reach Eon 7, but..." He looked at the screen. They were still hours away. "We won't make it," he said. Senna looked at the sleeping Lyra. "She needs a med bay. Her wound isn't healing right. If the ship shuts down..." Rye turned to her. "We'll lose her. A choice. One more impossible choice." Rye searched the nav logs. "There's one chance. There's a mining station, abandoned. No people, no help. But it has backup power and old medical tech." Senna frowned. "And the risk?" Rye replied. "The station is unstable. It was evacuated after gas leaks and system failures. But if the power still works..." He didn't finish the sentence. Senna nodded. "Then we go." They set course. The ember light rattled as it shifted direction. The ship was running on fumes and they could feel it. Every light was dim, every system ran slow, but somehow... They reached the station. It was dark, floating near a cracked asteroid, silent as a tomb. But there was a docking port, and the airlock still responded. Rye carried Lyra in his arms while Senna stayed close behind, flashlight in hand. The hallway smelled like dust and metal. Pipes hissed. The floor groaned beneath every step. They found a small medical room, broken, but usable. Rye laid Lyra on the table. "She's burning up," Senna whispered. Rye activated the console. The power hummed. A robotic arm came to life, scanning Lyra's body. Then something beeped. A hidden second implant. Her heart, Rye shouted. They hid another one near her heart. Senna looked terrified. Can we remove it? No, Rye said. If we try here, we might kill her. Then came the worst sound of all. The system spoke. Implant set to auto-detonate. In 5 minutes, remote command activated. Rye froze. No, it can't be. Senna whispered. It's him. A last revenge, a failsafe. They looked at each other. They had minutes, and only one option. Rye swallowed hard. If we freeze her, slow her body, it might delay the signal, buy us time to reach help. But freezing someone can kill them, Senna said. Rye touched Lyra's forehead. She once told me she'd rather die free. Senna stared at him, then nodded. Together, they activated the chamber. The cold gas hissed around Lyra's body. Her chest rose and fell slower. Slower until it stopped. A red light blinked. Still alive. Barely. Senna turned to Rye. We need to go now, or she'll die anyway. Rye nodded. He lifted Lyra's frozen body into a stasis pod and whispered, You're free now, but I won't stop fighting until you can feel it. They called him mate. The ember light soared through space once again, burnt, patched, and barely holding together. But it moved. That was all Rye Carson needed. He sat beside the stasis pod holding Lyra, watching the cold mist swirl inside. Her body was still. Her heartbeat faint. Senna sat silently across from him, her eyes locked on the window, where stars drifted slowly past. Neither of them had spoken in hours. The medical station had almost fallen apart after they left. 1 minute, later, and they would have all died. But now, time was running out. Lyra had maybe 2 hours before the freezing system failed. Rye checked the nav screen again. Eon 7 Medical Hub. Arrival in 57 minutes. Still time, still hope. But in space, nothing comes easy. Suddenly alarms began to scream. Unidentified. Ship approaching. Weapons hot. Rye's heart dropped. He rushed to the front controls. A small, sharp ship was speeding toward them. Fast. Military design. Old Xeroxian class. It's one of theirs, Senna whispered. From the old regime. The screen blinked with a transmission. A deep alien voice growled, Surrender the property, return the slaves, or die. Rye's hands gripped the controls. Senna stood beside him. We can't outrun them, not in this junk. Rye said nothing. He stared at the stasis pod. He had made a promise. No matter what. They wouldn't go back in chains. He flipped on the ship's comm. I'm not returning anyone, he said calmly. They're not your property, the alien voice laughed. You're a fool. One human can't save them from an empire. Rye's eyes narrowed. Then watch me try. The enemy ship fired. The ember light shook violently as explosions rocked the outer hull. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Warning lights blinked everywhere. Senna fell, but Rye caught her. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Just bruises. We only have one trick left, he said. Emergency overload. We pump all fuel into engines. One giant burst. It might fry the ship, but it could push us into Eon 7's range. Senna looked at Lyra's body. Will she survive that? Rye didn't answer right away. Then softly, she has to. He ran to the engine panel. Wires were exposed. He tore off the safety cover and jammed the override. The ship groaned in pain. The thrusters lit up like fire. Senna returned to the front seat and grabbed the controls. I'll steer. Rye turned to her. Why? She gave a small smile. Because if we crash, I want to die flying. Rye laughed once, then took his seat. They hit the switch. The ember light shot forward like a comet, leaving a trail of fire and broken parts behind. The enemy ship tried to follow, but the blast wave knocked it off course. Inside, the ember light screamed louder than any engine had the right to. The frame shook. Walls cracked. Lights exploded, but the stars got closer. And then, silence. Everything went black. Rye woke up coughing. The smell of burnt wires filled the air. He blinked. A white light above him hurt his eyes. A voice spoke nearby. Calm, mechanical. Patient, stable, medical evac successful. He turned his head. He was in a medical bed. Clean, warm. He tried to sit up. Pain stabbed through his back, but he managed. Across the room, in another bed, was Lyra. Eyes open, breathing, alive and smiling. Senna stood beside her, holding her hand. She turned to Rye with tears in her eyes. You did it. Rye tried to smile. We did it. A nurse droid entered and scanned them. Vital strong. Recovery likely. Visitors allowed in 2 hours. Senna nodded. The droid left. Rye looked at Lyra. How do you feel? Her voice was soft, weak, but real, like I've woken from a dream. She reached out her hand toward him. He hesitated, but then gently placed his hand in hers. No scream, no pain, only warmth. She smiled. It doesn't hurt anymore. Senna walked to Rye. We talked while you were sleeping, about where we go from here. Rye raised an eyebrow. Yeah? Lyra squeezed his hand. We don't have homes to go back to. Our people are gone. Our world is gone, Senna added. But we don't want to be lost anymore. We want something real. Rye looked between them. You're free now. You can choose anything. Lyra nodded. Then we choose you. Senna stepped closer, her voice tender. Not as a master, not as an owner, as a partner, a protector, a mate. Rye blinked. You're serious? Lyra's eyes softened. You gave up everything for us. You broke chains no one else saw, and you never once looked at us like property. Senna whispered. You looked at us like women. Rye felt his heart beat faster, then slower. He took a deep breath. Then let's start over, he said. No chains, no past, just us. The girls smiled, and for the first time since the war ended, they were no longer survivors. They were his, and he was theirs.